only when you do something, when you feel like it, you will be dragging your default mode and not to be able to change the way you produce things. Welcome to Satori Mindset Podcast. My name is Yuki Yoshii, and this is your time, your moment to reflect on yourself, your life, and to integrate your journey to feel aligned, and to ultimately make the awakened version of you a default mode. So let's begin. So today I want to talk about something actually a little bit different, but I felt the necessity of sharing how I think and the perspective of the production. So I want to talk about key to be consistent. So this conversation and the information will be benefiting for anybody who is working on the project or anything that you're doing to improve your health or any business activity or work related activity. It might not apply too much to somebody who is focusing on creating a changing a meaningful relationship, whatever, right? But more around execution, something that requires for execution, right? Because I hear very often people not being able to stay consistent in their practice, in their training, in their work activity. Yeah. And I wanted to share some simple, I would say strategy, but a way of thinking. So this will give you a clarity of how to go about it. And also, this might shed light on why things might fall off your list per se. So the first step is actually to make a decision, right? To make a decision of what is it that you're gonna be working towards, focusing on. Because unless you make a decision, you will just do when you feel like it. Only when you do something, when you feel like it, you will be dragging your default mode and not to be able to change the way you produce things, right? The expression. Like this could be something that can apply to somebody who's writing a book or creating some arts or any business activities or even like a change in the body, right? You will not be eating food based on only how you feel like it, but you want to first make a decision of what is it that you want to see change or shift in order to begin examining what is serving, what is not serving. So making a decision of what is it that you're going to do by setting the time aside, right? And I think it's good to sort of decide, okay, from this moment forward, I'm going to begin doing, right? People tend to kind of postpone that starting date to, oh, tomorrow I'm going to start, or tomorrow I'm going to start. So you're going to have a starting date, right? That's number one. Number two, this is language that I sort of came up with. You want to have an anchor point. And anchor point is, for instance, often I like to sort of look at the 2 month or 3 month view. I tend not to look at monthly view because month can go by really fast, right? But then you look at the 3 month view, 2 month view, but then you actually focus on the week, right? You focus on the week because when you focus on the week, there is a certain length but then it's short enough, like a week goes by really fast, right? A week is short enough so you can give an attention, good attention, right? So throughout the week, what is it that I need to be able to see? Yeah, that is an anchor point, right? So let's say if you're changing, working on changing the body throughout the week, what is number one thing that is non-negotiable that you want to actually fulfill each week? And the benefit and the power of creating a weekly anchor point is that when you start having a lot of activities or things to do, you will be able to prioritize which one to pick in order to meet this, to fulfill this anchor point. Yeah. Because many people tends to have a lot of things, oh, I want to do this, and then change my mind and I start doing this, and somebody calls and I start doing this. And often we sort of drift into not prioritizing your activities, but then begin prioritizing what comes in the moment, which sometimes is necessary to actually pick that to be able to meet and fulfill the anchor point. And it's like a dance almost. But then having that anchor point will enable us to come back to being on this path when we get out of the path, right? So that's number two. Number one is making a decision. Number two is to set the anchor point and begin living the week based on the anchor point. Yeah. Number three, okay. So what are the things that you are going to be doing throughout the week? And often the month is a repetition of the week, right? And the day is a portion of the week, but throughout the week, you can have different variations, right? That's why I like to focus on the week, right? So the week, the 7 days is like a variation of one segment that creates the month when you have 4 weeks or 4+ week, right? So then what we want to do is throughout the week, what are the things, the action items, the inspire action items, the productive activities or result producing activity. I like that, right? The result producing activity that I will be so excited about engaging. Yeah. Did you just hear how I reframe it, right? It's not a to-do list. The to-do list has a heaviness to it, right? What is the result producing activities that I'm so excited about putting to be able to meet this anchor point? And you sort of come up with it, right? And then when you come up with all those things, for me, it's important to schedule them, right? Instead of saying, oh, I'm just gonna do when the time comes, or I don't decide when to do, you kind of schedule it, right? Power of scheduling is when you don't do what you schedule, then you know you can examine why you didn't do it, right? So, like for instance, let's say if you're changing the body and you are setting an appointment with a trainer, right? And then once you schedule and make an appointment with a trainer, which actually you can make your appointment with yourself by putting on the calendar, you don't need to think about it, right? So there are a lot of things that we are thinking about throughout the day that is consuming our energy. And we want to be thinking less to be able to make that automatic and then to be able to use our thinking consciously for things that we want to be using it for, right? So I think when you don't have that actual plan or schedule in place, we start overusing our thinking for something that we don't need to be spending our energy. So it gives us a little bit more efficiency in our thinking energy. Yeah. And then by scheduling, you can kind of test, what's working, what's not working, why this worked, why it didn't work, right? But if you don't schedule them, and then when you just do with the flow, whatever you feel like you're doing, then we don't really know why we didn't fulfill at the end of the week. So we want to schedule to be able to reassess and reassess and reassess. The most beautiful thing about this is that process will give you a observation to really learn about yourself. Sometimes it might be painful to learn how actually we are ending up using our time, but then by doing so, we can change it, right? Number four. Number four might be something that you might not be expecting to share. Yeah. Number four is to look at the week, the past week that you lived, how you spend the week, and then begin noticing what you can eliminate. Yeah. So some of the non-result producing activities or non-result producing mode, default state that we might be in. Yeah. This has a lot to do with identity, right? Because when you imagine yourself being a certain place and imagine yourself as somebody who is very efficient and effective, you might not be talking to somebody like this or doing this, taking this much time. Yeah. You will quickly say, no, I'm not able to do that, or to move on to something else. Yeah. So not only you want to put the things, the result producing activities that you can fulfill the anchor point. But also, it's important to begin looking at how we're spending the day and the week and begin removing the non-productive activities that we might be actually falling into as a default state. And then I think it's important. Number five, I give you the fifth one, is to have the date and the time set aside to examine the whole thing. Number one to number four. Yeah. And sometimes it's a good idea to do with somebody else because that will give you an accountability and also a structure to stay on track. So number one is to make a decision. Number two is to set an anchor point for the week. Number three is to schedule your result producing activity. And number four is to remove your non-result producing activities, including the way of thinking. And then number five, to set the time aside. Could be 20 minutes throughout the week, just one time to review all of those so you can improve the next round when the new week comes. Thank you for listening to the podcast. A message I want you to take with you is this. You have a power to choose how you see yourself and the world at any given moment. So stay connected to that wisdom.